He literally wore me down by asking me every day for 37 straight days to start the podcast. And on the 38th day, I said yes, so he would shut up and leave me alone. And what I didn't know is I started the first oil and gas podcast in the world, Oil and Gas This Week, which is our number one show. 3 months after we started it, Red Wing Boots called me and said, "Hey, we want to sponsor your podcast." And I almost said, "Why?" But the old sales guy in me kicked in and said, "Shut up, let them talk." And that's the beginning of this empire that we sit on now.
Oh yes, this is the Hardcore Marketing Show. I'm Casey Cheshire, your host for this epic journey. Today's show is sponsored by Ringmaster, on a mission to launch B2B podcasts that create relationships, generate revenue, and drive growth. Ringmasterlive.com. Bam. Oh yes, you're joining us half an hour into the podcast because we just hit record. Only slightly kidding. I've had a great conversation with this guest. I can't wait to introduce you to him. He's an absolute badass. He is this amazing combination. He's a sales leader turned marketer, and now a marketing thought leader, an author, a professional speaker, a podcaster. Should I even say the godfather of oil and gas when it comes to podcasting? He's an expert. He's been in this industry. Talk about being in an industry for a bit, a quarter of a century in that industry, millions to his name in terms of driving deals and driving pipe and his pipeline. Speaking of pipeline, right? Host of one of the top 21 oil and gas podcasts in the world, 4 million plus downloads from every single country on the planet. People have listened to the show. Editor-in-chief at Oil and Gas Global Network, Mark LaCour. Welcome to the show, sir.
Casey, thank you so much. And the funny thing is we had such great conversations before we hit record. One day we have to figure out how to go back and capture some of that stuff. But you know what, Casey? You know what gripes my butt?
Tell me. Oh, hold on. Before you claim that, I got to pass you this thing. It's heavy, okay? Here we go. Okay. Go ahead.
I love it. I love it.
Grab Thor's hammer.
I wish I could.
You got it. Oh, you go. You got it? Okay. Okay. All right, Mark, take Thor's hammer and smash for me some kind of marketing myth, bogus strategy, misconception. Set the record straight once and for all.
Vanity metrics. Too many people are too concentrated on things that don't freaking matter. You mentioned the podcast. We have 21 different podcasts that are released each week. Our audiences, some of those audiences for those podcasts are small, some of them are larger. And when I talk to potential sponsors, the first thing everybody wants to know is how many downloads, right? It doesn't matter how many downloads. Let me tell you from experience, our largest podcast, which is half of our audiences. So 2 million downloads for one podcast, 2 million downloads for the other 20 podcasts. Our largest audience, Oil and Gas This Week, I can't give away free t-shirts, right? One of our smallest audiences, our Health, Safety, Environmental podcast, which is a very small audience. Recently, my host had a glove manufacturer on, and when they aired the episode, so many people listened to it and went to the glove manufacturer's website. It shut down the website.
Damn.
Like, see the difference, right? And it all depends on what's important to you. And don't get me wrong, there are things like clicks and downloads and stuff. That data is useful. But in my opinion, especially if you're worried about revenue, ignore all that. Everything that's connected to sales is what you should be measuring, not stuff that looks good on an Excel spreadsheet, right? So it gripes my butt, Casey, that so many people get too caught up in downloads and clicks and follows and likes and all this sort of stuff when most of that doesn't really even matter.
Where does this come from? Like, why do we get so obsessed with these metrics?
I think there's two components of it. One is years ago, marketing was as much as magic as it was a science, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then later we had the ability to collect data around marketing, which was great. You could justify things, you could track things, see if it worked, A/B testing, all that sort of stuff. But what happened in the culture of marketing, especially marketing leaders in big companies, is now they can be measured, right? Unlike salespeople who traditionally have always been measured, right? If you're the top producer, you don't have to worry about anything. If you're the bottom producer, you need to be worried. And if you're in the middle, you're probably okay, right? In marketing, it used to be nobody could tell if you're doing a good job or not. Well, now that this data came aboard, you could be measured. And so then marketing leaders had to justify their budgets, their headcount, and everything else. And I think they just naturally gravitated toward the metrics, which made it easier to justify that sort of stuff, which may or may not be metrics that's important to the business. And because it got more complicated as it went through time, eventually got to the point where marketing speak wasn't understood by anybody else, right? And so if I come to you and show you that, you gave me budget this year for $500,000, and I can show you that we increased our website traffic 72% and the time on page has increased 30%, that looks good. But my question in that situation would be, how much did you sell? I don't care if 1,000 people come to my website, Kaisi. I want one person to come and buy from me, right? That's what I'm looking for. That one buyer, not 1,000 people that do drive-bys. And I think that's where that came from. And I'm starting to see some of that shift because I'm seeing the convergence of sales and marketing, because a lot of the data that the marketing teams really need to be effective actually is in the salespeople's heads. And so with marketing sales start working together, then all of a sudden upper management starts seeing that maybe those metrics that marketing's been using for years, maybe they're not that important to the business that they thought it
Oh,
was.
yeah.
Yeah.
Man, you man, I've talked about these ideas, but never had it stated. The thought that people just gravitated toward the stats they either could control the easiest or that prove their point the easiest,
Yeah.
unknowingly, unwittingly, maybe into stats that would actually maybe hurt them or not do anything. It's almost like, oh, I can modify this stat. Who knows if that's even going to do anything? But then now you've sort of made your bet and you're stuck.
Yeah. And recently, now with bots and AI, quite frankly, you can buy any stat you want. I can publish a video on YouTube that sucks, and I can buy views, right?
Yeah,
We've all seen this with
true.
a lot of famous people where they years later find out they really don't have that many followers, right? They bought those followers, and so now it construes everything. And I think we kind of need to get back to the roots of marketing. What is marketing supposed to do? How do you measure that? And how do you define success? Now, in my company, because I come from a sales background, almost everything is tied to sales metrics. And that just may be me, right? But if we have an established brand. In our industry, everybody knows who we are. However, if I was starting brand new, and my industry didn't know who I was, maybe sales metrics wouldn't be where I would start with. Maybe it'd be brand recognition metrics, right? We still need to generate revenue, but maybe we spend more time with our marketing to let companies know who we are and what we do. Then once you're established and the market knows who you are and what you do, then you want to put just enough resources into that brand awareness campaigns to keep it there. And I think then you should switch to actually generating revenue. And that's different metrics, it's different approaches, it's different tools, but all humans hate change. And so if you built a marketing organization from a small company and the company grew to a big company and you've always did brand awareness, then you're probably going to keep doing that because that's what you're used to.
All humans hate change. I hate change,
Yeah. Yeah. We all do.
especially change in my pocket. Like it's almost like a metaphor for how much I hate change. Jingle jangle my pocket. No. Get rid of that. Here.
Well, Casey, I think you're not going to have to worry about pennies pretty soon.
I hear rip on the pennies, man. Rest in peace, Penny. Your copper days are done. They're done.
It's I did not know how much it cost to make a penny until that stuff happened. I saw it in the news.
It was like 3 cents, right? It's like 3
Yeah,
pennies to make 1 penny. Like,
yeah.
that's dumb.
And then I go, well, shoot, we should get rid of the pennies. And then I found out every coin denomination we have, it costs more than the coin is worth to make those too. So I don't know where it ends.
Yeah, where does it end? Maybe no coins.
I don't know. Then we get into conspiracy theories, and
Sure.
this probably is not the show for that, or
Sure.
maybe it could be.
Hey, I don't know. It just depends. It depends. All you have to do is to tie it back into marketing. We go conspiracy, and we go, but marketing.
Well, the conspiracy theories that have been around for a long time, whether it was done on purpose or an accident, is a credit to somebody's marketing. It's still around, right?
Yeah.
If you look at Greenpeace, when they got started in the late 60s and the early 70s, there were a couple of things they were really worried about. One is the proliferation of nuclear weapons. Back then, we were doing open air testing of hydrogen bombs. How crazy is that shit?
Right.
We were dumping raw sewage in the oceans, and we were creating forever chemicals that never broke down. And so Greenpeace did such a good job with the nuclear part of it that even to this day, which is almost 70 years later, a lot of people don't like nuclear energy, but they should. It's the safest way to produce electricity, no matter what you think. But think about what type of marketing job Greenpeace did all those years ago where even now, fast forward now, and people still don't like nuclear energy. Crazy, huh?
Right. Because they're like, oh, that in what? Chernobyl. It's dramatic.
Yeah. 3 Mile Island.
3 Mile Island.
We've had a couple of
I don't think anyone died from 3 Mile Island though, right?
I don't know. There was some low-level contamination, I know that much, and which may have led to health issues later, like years later, but I don't know the details around that.
It's a good
Yeah.
question. That's why when I asked my invisible health check, yeah, no deaths or injuries. Okay.
So Casey, speaking of really good marketing, I'm in Texas. You may or may not have heard of this chain of gas stations called Buc-ee's.
Oh, yeah. I have. Tell me about it. Tell me about it.
Okay, so Buc-ee's differentiator is they're enormous and they're exceptionally good at everything. So their bathrooms are always spotlessly clean. They pay their people extremely well, even their part-time people that have full benefits. They do their own in-house food, which is extremely good, and it's very common to pull up to a Buc-ee's and they have 100 gas station, 100 gas pumps, right? Some of the bigger ones have more, right? It's crazy, and you have your choices. You can get your gasoline at the normal, regular, mid-size, and premium, but you can also get it with or without ethanol. And so you can also, if you're a diesel driver, you can buy your diesel with or without biodiesel blended into it. So they give you a lot of choices. But let me tell you how good their marketing is. They're for the longest time, they're only based in Texas. Lately, they've expanded into the Gulf Coast, so Florida, Louisiana, right? I had some clients from Norway on the other side of the world, right? When they came down here and we were taking a drive to a conference, they intentionally made me stop at Buc-ee's, and we spent an hour there while they were taking selfies and buying Buc-ee tacos and beaver nuggets and everything else. How crazy is Buc-ee's marketing that people on the other side of the world who've never even been to a Buc-ee's wanted to stop there? That's a credit to the Buc-ee's marketing.
Yeah, right. Because and they did. It's not like like sometimes I see Sonic ads up. I'm in New Hampshire and I see these all the time, and I'm like, screw you, Sonic. I know you don't exist up here. Stop advertising, right? Stop teasing me with a good time.
Right.
But with Buc-ee's, it's not like they're even advertising. We're talking about it, and
Yeah, see how good a job they did. You and I are talking about it right now on your
it's like
podcast.
a free ad. They didn't have to pay me at all. But if you want to pay me Buc-ee's, you can. But yeah. So it's just that word of mouth, but good word of mouth. I definitely had heard about the bathrooms. I didn't realize the food was that good. That's fantastic. And then
I'll put a Buc-ee's chicken taco against any restaurant's chicken
for
taco
real,
in the
for
country.
real,
Yes. Yeah. They make their own tortillas. Like they literally are that concerned about the quality of everything they do.
how it's like, but it's so counterintuitive because it's gas stations are normally like such a thin margin and dirty and nasty and
So typical gas stations in the US make no money on the gasoline or diesel they sell. It's just to get you in the door, and they make the money on the Slurpees and the potato chips and everything else. What Buc-ee's does is because the buying experience is so good, is they actually do make a couple cents profit on the gasoline. So their gasoline is slightly higher by like a penny or two than anybody else's in that area, but you're willing to pay it knowing that you could pull up to a pump. You don't have to wait because there's 100 pumps. Everything is spotless. You get great food. You go to the bathroom is clean and get out. And to me, if I fill up my car with 18 gallons, which is what my tank holds, and it costs me 2 cents more a gallon, that's it's worth 50 cents to be able to get in and out quicker in a clean environment.
take the money. We have a BJ's wholesale gas station near us, and people will wait in line for hours just to get 10 cents off. I'm like, what are you people doing? But it's the same in this case. Yeah, spend the 10 cents for, hey, the bathroom's gonna be great. You probably get a good, like, I got to check out that chicken taco that Mark told me about, right? Like, yeah, it's totally worth it. What is that concept? What did they do?
See, but this is a great segue. We didn't rehearse it in this. That is literally, in my mind, the definition of engagement. So Buc-ee's marketing teams figured out what is important to their clients, right? So for me, it's speed because they're usually on the interstates. I'm usually going somewhere. So how quick can I get in and out? It's choices in fuel. I'm a car guy. I drive a modified car, and I like having choices of fuel I can put in it. It's cleanliness. I could bring my girlfriend, I could bring my kids. I don't have to worry about that to the bathroom. And it's high quality. You walk in the door, somebody with a smile says hi to you, and it's genuine, right? And you remember that. When you walk out of the gas station, you feel good about the experience because the engagement that Buc-ee's marketing has built into something as mundane as a gas station.
Man, like like crazy engagement. They're engaging with people rather than saying, "Give me your money, get the heck out of here." They're saying, "Hey, stay a while, pull up a chair."
And they do that engagement with their own people. It's not just external, right? When you walk to a Bucky's, the first thing you see is this huge sign showing what they pay. If you're a general manager here in Texas, you can make $250,000 a year managing a gas station. If you're managing the food, you can make $175,000 a year. If you're an entry level person coming in just to work the cashier, it's $25 an hour plus benefits and vacation. There's no other place in Texas that somebody right out of high school can get a job in an air conditioned room at $25 an hour and full benefits, even if they're full time. So all of that is engagement, internal engagement, right? Which then increases loyalty, retention, which actually lowers the cost. I bet a lot of gas stations have a big churn. You pay somebody, you train them, they leave, you have to pay somebody else. Theft, shrinkage, right? And so Bucky's has figured out a way to use marketing to have everybody engaged. Their external customers and what they call them, their internal customers, which are their employees.
Dude, health insurance being what it is, I just need, get my entrepreneur a side hustle job at Bucky's.
At Bucky's, I'm telling you.
I should get the benefits. Holy moly. Um, yeah, wow. They're really reversing it, like going hard in the other direction. Check us out. Yeah, I wonder what other businesses could do that. Really, anyone could do that, or
They have some competitors chasing them now, right? So there's this truck stop chain called Love's. It's all over the U.S. and Love's has taken notice of what Bucky's is doing, and they're trying to copy them. The problem that Love's has, though, is they've been around longer than Bucky's. And remember, we talked about you don't like change. So they're trying to make sure their bathrooms are spotless. But their existing employees that go, wait, we used to clean the bathrooms twice a day. Why do we have to do it every hour? And so they're having to push back and go against their own internal culture, which is what eventually is going to cause them not to be able to compete with Bucky's unless they can change that culture. The culture is always the hardest thing to change. And unfortunately for Love's, I think they've been around for almost 100 years. So they have 100 years of internal culture that they're having to change to try to compete with this new competitor of theirs that's come at it from a totally different angle. It's going to be interesting to see if they're able to change that or not.
the idea of the change, that's the sluggishness, is like you're on a large boat that takes a long time to turn. You know, the idea of creating something that way as opposed to having to morph it into that. Yeah, that's kind of a nice moat they've created. You'd think, oh, everyone can just do this too, but no, you're right. Not everyone's down for it internally and externally. And maybe you've already been to one, and you've already been to a Love's, and the bathroom was just like a disease-ridden jungle.
It's not that bad. Love's no hate mail.
Okay.
Love's is okay, but they're not up to the Bucky standards.
And their tacos, do their tacos suck? Like, what's the deal?
They don't have tacos.
They don't have tacos?
No, they do have food, but they're not at the level of Bucky's where, literally Bucky makes their own hamburger buns, right? They're actually the newest one they're building I think in Mississippi. They're putting a rooftop garden on for some of the garnishes they use in their food. Like, how cool is it? They're going to grow their own green onions and parsley on the roof of their building to decrease the quality of their food, which is already high quality.
Dang. Or is it just grow in between the different, the concrete next to the parking lot, and they're just going and harvesting their own greens?
Yeah. But you see how all that ties in? So the Bucky's marketing team could have went down the conventional route. Hey, how many clicks we have on our website? How many downloads we have for our app to get a discount at the pump, which, by the way, they don't do. No discount at the pump, right? How many followers do we have? Bucky's marketing team said, no, what we want is real measurable results from what's important. Our customers, our buyers. What do we do not only to get them there, but if they get there, will they come back? And if not, why? And what do we need to do to make them loyal? And like I said, they have built such a brand loyalty that Norwegians from the other side of the Atlantic Ocean made me stop so they could take selfies at Bucky's. Now, let me tell you what else Bucky's marketing team does really well. When my Norwegian clients did that and they tagged Bucky's on Twitter or X, Bucky's marketing team replied and said, thank you. How good did it make the Norwegians feel to know that somebody said hi? Now, you and I both know this is probably some young person that's still in college whose job it is just to answer the post on social media, but it made them feel good, right? So the way they felt about Bucky's was amplified by the marketing. It's a genius way they handle that.
Wow, a feelings amplifier.
Yeah.
Well, my next question really for you, you're on the ground. You can see these different things that are going. What's exciting for you about the future?
Oh boy, so much. The first thing, and I know it's been overhyped, but is AI. We have our own internal experiment using AI to generate a podcast from scratch. And Casey, it's probably 80% there. It's 80% you and I will be replaced today. Give it 5 years, and we may not be us. We may be avatars of us doing this same type of podcast. That's amazing what's going on. The other thing I think is going on is the dichotomy between the actual foundations of a podcast. The definition of a podcast is an audio file that is pushed out via RSS feed that's stored on a server, audio server. And yet now that has been blurred mainly because of Google pushing YouTube really hard. And a lot of young people think podcasts are videos, and they're interchangeable to the point now where I just quit correcting people, because 90% of people, when they say podcasts, they're either talking about a video or maybe audio only. The video component of it is interesting. So I still think the audio only format is better for podcasting for a couple of reasons. The first is people can consume that content when they're doing something else like commuting, which you really should not be watching YouTube, or working out. But there's a psychological component. If you listen to podcasts with earbuds in, and people that are in your audience that do this, you're going to recognize this immediately. Your brain interprets it as a real conversation. So you end up forming an intimate relationship with the host. You feel like you know the host. You don't. You've never met him or her. However, your brain thinks you know them. That develops a very high level of trust, which in the marketing world, especially today with so much content being spewed all over the place, having that high level trust is paramount to success in your business. The video format doesn't do that. When your brain looks at a screen, they know it's not real. And so that's something that's very interesting. In our own research with our own audiences, and remember, Casey audiences, everything I'm telling you is through the lens of oil and gas, because that's all we do. Our own research says that most people prefer the audio version only of a podcast Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. So basically work hours. That same content, they would actually like the option of seeing it on video on the weekends and after hours. To me, that means that these people that or want to consume our podcast, maybe at work with earbuds in, nobody knows what they're doing, but when they get home, they want to kick back and relax and turn on the television and have that same content. So we're going down this, we don't have a choice. Google's forcing me, kicking and screaming, to go down the video route, because there's a much bigger cost both for gear and for editing for doing video versus audio only. But we're going down the route. We're launching our first two video first podcasts, and it's an experiment, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be successful. So then you get into the whole thing of what's next. With the combination of AI being able to generate content almost as good as people, and with a lot of people wanting to consume it on video, what is the next step? I don't know, but whatever that is exciting. I'm thinking it may be augmented reality when we get to the point where you can wear a lens that's not obvious, that is able to feed you data. Maybe that data is the next evolution of a podcast. I don't know, but the future is exciting for what we do.
Man, it's super exciting. All the different changes, and what's real, what's not, what's human, what's not. Yeah.
Well, back to marketing. Right now, there's AI content being generated that the AI uh, parts of Google are reading and figuring out if they should rank it or not rank it organically. And if it is AI and it's good, high quality content today, in what is this, March of 2025, Google is ranking it organically, even though it was generated by AI. However, if it's not good content, Google won't rank it. But Google knows that it's AI generated. Google's own AI knows it's being generated. So the next thing I think is going to happen is we're going to have AI search engine optimization wars between your AI, which is trying to fool Google, and Google's AI trying to make sure you don't fool Google. That's going to be an interesting place to be. And for all I know, it may be going on right now. We're just not aware of it.
Yeah, it absolutely could be. Man. Well, hey, next question I've been dying to ask this, because you do a lot of things. Who are you? Who are you? Take me back in time. Little Mark days. Did you know you were going to be the godfather of oil and gas podcasting? Like, tell me.
No. I grew up in a rural area in Louisiana. I'm Cajun by heritage, and I'm very proud of that. I grew up on 140-acre farm, so cows, chickens, horses, gardens, all that stuff. So I hate all that stuff now. I don't even own a lawnmower.
Are you serious? You hate?
Oh yeah,
don't even have a lawnmower.
No, yeah, it's a generational thing. So my dad grew up in the city, so he wanted to grow up in the country, so we did. I grew up in the country, and so I moved to the city, which I live now. And my son, who grew up in the city, wants to live in the country. So it's weird how the generation before affects the generation after it in some way, whether it's good or bad, doesn't matter, still affects it. Anyway, grew up in a rural area, went to high school. College was not for me. I was sick of school. I was not a great student in high school. And so I joined the Marine Corps right out of high school, which was the best decision I ever made. Now I can
Hell
say that
yeah.
now. While I was in, I didn't think it was the best decision I ever made, but now looking behind me, it was. It taught me not just discipline, because you're a Marine as well, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. It taught me to appreciate simple things. I remember my first, so after the Marine Corps, I went to college. I remember my first day in college, 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm in the dorms, I'm in the shower, and I turn on the water and it's hot. And I'm going, I could lay here for hours and have all the hot water I want. That was such a treat after being in the Marine Corps for 4 years, being cold and wet and shot at for 4 years,
Yep.
never had hot water, right? And so I appreciate that. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of Americans never leave their country and they don't realize how good we have it here. I mean, let's be honest. Our poor people in the U.S. are overweight and have cell phones. That's not normal. That's how prosperous we are as a country. And I would have never recognized that if I didn't serve in the Marine Corps. Also, stuff doesn't bother me like it would have before. Something bad can happen now, and it's really not that big a deal because I've had weeks where I could not get out of bed. So, so now if I get out of bed, it's gonna be a good day. I don't care what happens. Anyway,
Yeah.
4 years in Marine Corps, and I wanted to save the planet. So I went to college, got a degree in wildlife management. I am an educated environmentalist. Got out of college in the late 80s and got slapped in the face with reality because nobody would hire me but the wildlife and fisheries. And it was like 14,000 a year, which even then you couldn't live on, right? And so I went to work for a startup nobody had ever heard of, Cellular One. So I got involved building cell sites before anybody else had heard of them. My dad pulled me aside one day and said, "Boy, you need to get another job because nobody's gonna buy those $2,000 phones." I believed him, but luckily for me, he was wrong, and it took off. From there, I went to work for the phone company, Bell South in the East.
Wow.
I just wanted a job, and they go, "Mark, we have the best job in the world for you. However, nobody else wants it, and we're struggling to find somebody to take it." And I go, "What is it?" They go, "It's the oil and gas book of business in the Bell South territory. We want to give you all the oil and gas companies." And I said, "Yes, Casey," just because I wanted the job. I didn't care. I didn't know anything about the oil and gas industry at all. Come to find out, working with Chevron and Exxon and BP was a pain in the butt. And that's why no other salespeople person wanted it. But I took the job and I was very open and honest. And I went to all my customers and go, "Look, I don't know what you do, but I promise you I'll always do good business with you. And I'll promise that I won't ever try to cheat, lie, or steal, but I'm ignorant." And the oil and gas industry opened up the kimono. It was wonderful. The first time I went offshore, and you can't do this now, it's highly illegal and probably extremely unsafe. But I knew one of the big service companies and I knew the leader of it. And I said, "Hey, Joel, I've never been offshore." And he goes, "Meet me at the heliport on Wednesday." And because I was with a service company, I got in this helicopter and went offshore and spent 2 days on a rig. Same way with refineries, pipelines, everything. And it was just great. Eventually, Bell got bought by AT&T, which wasn't a good fit for me. I went to work for a research company called Forrester Research. I had their oil and gas key accounts, most important accounts in the world to them. That's where I learned my research methodology. And then about 15 years ago, they capped my commission, and it just pissed me off, Casey. Like really?
Come on, Forrester.
I make you $20 million that you didn't ask me to make, and you can't give me 10,000 of it. So I started my first company, ModalPoint, out of anger, and ModalPoint's still around. It's a market research company focused on the oil and gas industry. Here's
Wow.
where your marketing audiences go love. In the process of growing that business in 2011, my marketing guy from ModalPoint came to me and said, "We should start a podcast to promote ModalPoint." And Casey, I looked at him and said, "That's the stupidest thing that's ever come out of your mouth. Nobody listens to podcasts. Go do something to make me some money." Now, in my defense, back then, Apple had introduced a hardware called an iPod, but nobody was using it for podcasts or using it for music. The podcast genre was dying because it was expensive. There was no broadband like this, so you couldn't do remote interviews. The software to edit audio was clunky and expensive. Microphones were expensive. And so I just thought it was disappearing. And he kept on and kept on. And for any of your audience that has kids, just like a child, he literally wore me down by asking me every day for 37 straight days to start the podcast. And on the 38th day, I said yes. So he would shut up and leave me alone. And what I didn't know is I started the first oil and gas podcast in the world, Oil and Gas This Week, which is our number one show. 3 months after we started it, Red Wing Boots called me and said, "Hey, we want to sponsor your podcast." And I almost said, "Why?" But the old sales guy me kicked in and said, "Shut up, let them talk." And that's the beginning of this empire that we sit on now. And so we've made every mistake you can make in podcasting, sometimes more than once, but we eventually figured out how to turn it to a machine and replicate it and grow it. And that's where we are now.
Man, what a story. What a story. Ah, Yeah, what a journey, man. And even to be saying no, but kudos to you for the change, right? We're talking about organizational change to say no, 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 no. But you had one, you made a good hire, someone who was like really championing for something, but then eventually you said, yeah. And here you are, leading many, many, many companies through that process.
Yeah, it's all about the team. I think my biggest strength is being able to hire good people. A lot of people hire people they like, and for some reason, Casey, I'm not wired that way. I never have been. I don't know why. I'm not saying I hire people I don't like, but I'm pretty good at finding somebody that's a good fit for the role, whether I whether we're drinking buddies or not, right? And that's important. It's also important to them. You don't want to hire somebody that's going to fail because they're not a good fit, either not a good fit for the role or good fit for your company culture. That's on you as the hiring person. If they fail, you need to own some of that because you hired them. And so I hate firing people. I hate it. It's one of the most
It sucks.
things I dread the most, right? And so by making sure I do good hires, I don't have to fire people.
Right. It's good motivation, right? Let's ask those questions. And sometimes on the team, my team will say, "Hey, man, you're putting a lot of steps in this hiring process." It's like, yeah, because I want to be right, and I want to make sure I ask all the questions. And how many times have had a suspicion in my mind of like, is this a great person, but man, is this? And then of course, that was the reason where they eventually had to leave at some point. So yeah,
I've done it before too. I've been in a rush and I needed somebody right now, and I made a hire just because I needed a body, and that's a mistake. And every single time I've done it, it's failed. And once again, I have responsibility of that. I try to put a square person in a round hole or vice versa, and it's just not a good fit.
no, no, it isn't. Um, well, my next question is a bit of a hypothetical question. Are you ready for this?
I don't know. Let's do it.
All right. You see, I may or may not have a time machine here in New Hampshire. So let's say you're doing a trip and you got a big conference up in Boston. We come hang out. It's in the backyard covered in a tarp, to be honest. So you come hang out, we get some lobster, some beer, and we use the time machine, right? But it's a particular kind of time machine because you get to go back and you get to meet yourself early 20s, right? Graduated high school. You're like, actually, no, we'll say this. You just got out of the Marine Corps, right? You're about to go to college, sit in that infinite shower. You get to talk to that Mark. What are you telling him? What kind of advice are you giving yourself?
So I think the first thing coming out of my mouth is if you want to save the planet, get a degree in something that makes lots of money and donate money to good causes. Don't try to actually save the planet yourself with a shovel, which is what I was thinking. Hence the degree in wildlife management. I think the bigger thing, though, I would tell myself, Casey, is all the stuff that bothered me when I was younger. When you get older, it doesn't matter anymore. There's certain things that are just super important that override everything. Family, your relationships with other people. Money's not important, but the lack of money definitely leads to unhappiness, right? So make sure you have enough money where you can pay your bills and you're not stressed about that sort of stuff. Um, I think, and the other thing I would probably tell myself is, look, the first two women that you're falling in love with, do not marry them. I've been married, divorced twice. And my girlfriend actually now has been as well. And so both of us look at each other, go, we know it's us. If you do this, if you look at the statistic, it's us. And I'm saying it kind of tongue in cheek, but also being kind of serious though. I think a lot of young people, I think they need to spend a little bit more time seeing what else is out there in the world. And I don't mean like dating 30 girls at the same time. I don't mean that at all. But I mean, things that are important to you in your 30s and 40s are things that are vastly different than was important to you in your 20s.
Yeah, sure, sure. And it's one of the most important decisions you're ever going to make. So you give it a little consideration, actually think about it, not just sort of go with the flow, go with the feelings.
And back to marketing, I want to tie
Well,
this back
yeah.
to marketing, right? Don't worry about the clicks and follow the woman or man that you're dating with has, right? Don't worry about the superficial
Vanity
things. That's
metrics.
probably what the vanity metrics, which is what you're probably attracted to up front. Think about the longer term stuff. Think about the revenue generation. And I'm not talking about them making money. I'm talking about, can you see yourself with this person 10 years later, 15 years later? Do you have things in common that are meaningful, right? Things like views on children, politics, religion, all that stuff's important later. It may not be important when you first meet them, but I promise you it's important later.
Only a podcaster could bring it full circle like that,
And tie all that together.
tie it all back together with a bow. Where can people find you? Where can they connect with you? Where do you want them to go? the network, all the things.
I'm on all the social channels. The best thing is hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm most active on LinkedIn. I'm also pretty active on X. But if you want to check out the podcast, it's oggn.com. And we have shows that touch the entire energy, not just the oil and gas space. So would love to have any of your audiences interested. We actually have an oil and gas sales and marketing podcast. If any of your listeners are interested in following that one,
Okay, yeah, shout that out. What's it called?
it's literally called the Oil and Gas Sales and Marketing Podcast.
I love that
And
name.
my co-host, Matt Bertram, he runs the second highest SEO podcast in the world. He's also Forbes top CMOs 30 under 30. Most ADD person I ever met in my life, but people love him. Genius. And so our goal in that podcast is we think sales and marketing should be tied at the hip, should not be two separate organizations. And we're talking through the hows and the whys to connect sales and marketing.
So cool. Mark, thank you so much for coming on here. What a blast. I feel like I've had a master class from again, the godfather of oil and gas podcasting, but also just what a gut check to talk through vanity metrics and what really matters. So thank you.
You're very welcome. And to your audience, we're going to have Casey on our sales and marketing podcast, the one I just listened to. So if you want to make sure you don't miss that episode, go follow it.
Yep. Hear me on that. We'll link to it, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to joining that and listen to some of those other episodes. And on that note, if you're listening to this and you learned something, and I freaking know you did because I literally have 2 pages of notes over here, front and back, then share this episode with like 1 person, 9 people, 3,000, whatever the number, even 1 person. That's like thought leadership, right? Who needs to hear this? Do you know a fellow marketer that is, a fellow CMO, VP, someone who's kind of a little obsessed with vanity metrics, or maybe their CEO is, right? This is the episode for them. Take a little trip down to Buc-ee's, right? Learn a little bit of engagement, put loves to the test, right? So we talked about a lot of stuff today. And so share this with someone else. Tag Mark and myself as well. If you do share, and we'll hop in the comments. We'll have a good time. But with that, Mark, thank you again, sir.
Dude, this was a blast.
All right, everyone. This has been a crazy cool episode of the Hardcore Marketing Show. We will see you all next time.